Good morning. My name is Sneška Quaedvlieg. I'm the Secretary General of Europa Nostra, European Voice of Civil Society committed to cultural heritage, proud programming partner of the Delphi Economic Forum. And it is my great honor and privilege and pleasure to introduce the very special guests of the Delphi Economic Forum and very dear colleague and friend, Her Royal Highness Princess Dana of Jordan. She is the chairwoman of the Petra National Trust, one of the most wondrous places on the earth. She is the vice president of ICOMOS, International Council of Museums and Sites. She is one of the leading voices and forces of the Climate Heritage Network and a special envoy on cultural heritage and climate action. And she's also UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come to Delphi, and thank you for all what you have been doing. From Petra to Delphi, one extraordinary World Heritage Site to the other. What, Princess Dana, made you choose cultural heritage to be the mission of your life?
Thank you very much, Sneška. It's really, really wonderful to be here. It's my first time in Delphi. I thank you for the invitation and for this opportunity, and I want to thank the organizers and the president of the Delphi Forum for their hospitality. You know, the preamble to the UNESCO Constitution says that wars were made in the minds of men, and it's in the minds of men that we must construct peace. This is at the basis of what cultural heritage means to me. It is a question of values, common heritage, common humanity, shared beliefs, shared history, and that is the commitment that I have. It's a commitment to a multilateral world, to a world that shares the basic tenets of humanity, of values, of history, of civilization. At the end of the day, I come from a region that is the birthplace of civilization. It is, and for me, critical to connect that birthplace, the past, to the present and to the future. So culture is, you know, it's about beauty, it's about beautiful things, it's about human connection, it's about learning, it's about progress, it's about working together, and these are the very values to which I am committed.
You're stressing very much the word values. In the times that we are living, and tragic developments in the region, in the Middle East, the region where you come from. I know that you are also a champion of human rights, in addition to being the champion of cultural heritage. You know, what is your message here in Delphi as a person with your engagement coming from the Middle East?
Yeah. You know, I'm not a politician, and so I come to this very much as a humanist and from a cultural perspective. And I have to, I've said this and I'll say it again, I'm heartbroken. I'm truly heartbroken. I see carnage, I see tragedy, I see human suffering. I see potential that is wasted. You know, the people of Gaza are going through, the Palestinians are going through unthinkable, painful realities day in, day out. We've done some research. We superimposed a map of important archaeological and cultural sites of Gaza with a map of the bombing, of the Israeli bombing, and the devastation is almost you know, so hard to fathom, so hard to see. It's complete and utter devastation. And what is actually happening is the conditions for life, not just a decent life, not only a life, you know, of comfort. Basic human life have been decimated. At the end of the day, when we talk about culture and as cultural activists, for us, It's about landscapes, it's about the built environment, it's about nature all around you, but it's about people. It's about people who practice on a day-to-day their music, their food, their beliefs, their practices, their ideas. You know, people are the custodians of heritage. People are holders of memory. People are the continuity of heritage, of living heritage, and all of it is being systematically destroyed. And we have a moral obligation, all of us, as cultural activists, as human beings, to say enough. We have to stand up for what is moral and what is correct, and we have to stand up for our shared humanity and our shared values. So,
important message here at the Delphi Economic Forum, I think also to the European Union. We just heard two very important leaders, Jorge Maria Barroso and Schinas, talking about the rule of law and the role of Europe in the world. So I suppose you are also having expectations from Europe on that front as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Jordan and everyone in Jordan believes very much in this world order that we have created to prevent, escalation into violence and wars in the aftermath of World War II. We believe in an international system of governance. We believe in international law, in humanitarian law. We live every day by these values that I heard both gentlemen speak about. And for us to see the order not being upheld, to see humanitarian law disregarded, to see what we have felt to be a double standard in the dealings of Europe with the Middle East. It's changing, and the street in Europe very much recognizes the injustice. But we are very close to that way of life, to that thinking, to that commitment to a humanitarian world order. And this is why we feel that Europe is uniquely placed to play a big role and to really support justice in Palestine. At the end of the day, the history is common. You know, I walk in the streets here and the landscape is so familiar to me. It's the landscape of our countries. It's the landscape of the Mediterranean. The food is so familiar to me. The faces are so familiar to me. So there is a very strong historical, cultural affinity that I see, that I experience, that affects me very deeply, which is why for us, European engagement in this is very important.
We at Europa Nostra will definitely work closely, even more closely with you to develop these bridges between the northern shore and southern shore and eastern shores of the Mediterranean. Always say, how can we be Europa Nostra without a Mare Nostrum element? So we'll work on that. But to come back to a very important aspect regarding cultural heritage, and it is the relationship between cultural heritage and climate change and climate action. That is something that has become very much the main focus of your attention, and you have put all your energy and passion into championing the cause of heritage-led and culture-based climate action. We met for the first time a little bit less than 5 years ago in Baku at the World Heritage Committee, and ever since I think we felt that we are co-activists for a shared cause. So can you tell us, why you believe that indeed if we want to succeed in climate action, we must base it on culture and also engage cultural heritage?
If you remember, in that meeting, in the World Heritage Committee meeting, we launched a report that was prepared by ICOMOS, the International Council on Monuments and Sites, called The Future of Our Pasts. And it was that report, it was a seminal report that really looked at the connection between cultural heritage in a very practical way and climate change. And the intersection is complex and the intersection is very deep. And that report at the time concluded that the single most important threat to cultural heritage worldwide is climate change. I see it every single day in my own country, in Jordan. I see it in Petra. We see severe weather conditions that we've never seen before. We see flash floods that are causing incredible damage to monuments. Rain patterns are changing. You have very heavy rain in very short periods of time, and the ground is not able to absorb that amount of rain, and it ends up causing damage to important monuments. Petra is made of sandstone, for example, so it's very vulnerable. We see extreme weather conditions. We see heat. We see temperature differentials that we've never seen before. We're seeing very long hot seasons. Winter was very mild in Jordan this year. Traditionally in Amman, we see, one or two incidents of snow. We saw no snow this year whatsoever. So it's really, we are witnessing very tangibly the impact that climate change is having on our monuments. And what do? We need to be ready for it. We need to make sure that we understand these impacts in order to have the right plans to adapt, to mitigate, and to really build resilience around important heritage sites. Jordan relies very much on its heritage sites economically. It is, it's a big part of the economy, almost 15% of our GDP. It's a huge portion of employment, of income generation, of entrepreneurship, and so that industry is critical to the economy. So you're not only talking about beauty and beautiful things and values, but you're talking very practically about people's lives, well-being, and quality of life. And those intersections, when you are a country that is a poor country, a country that is very vulnerable to shocks in the region around it, it is very important to address the things that are impacting that sector that is critical to your economy and to your well-being as a country. On the other hand, we've also seen that culture and cultural heritage contributes enormously to action, to mitigate climate change, and to build community resilience. So we need to ensure that we recognize very seriously the importance of culture in changing mindsets, in changing patterns of consumption, patterns of production, in changing the relationship that people have with the economy, with the land that they are on. We're very extractive in our relationships. We need to be much more gentle, much more circular, much more caring. So, and the values of care, the values of compassion, the values of reciprocity with what your natural environment gives you, those are embedded in cultural heritage. People throughout the ages learned how to deal with climatic challenges. That knowledge is science. It was generated based on circumstances in local environments. It was tested in circumstances of sort of changing local environments. It was modified, it was adjusted. It is science. And so that science needs to be recognized.
And you were very effective as the leader of our Climate Heritage Network at the COP. So you made the first breakthrough at Sharm el-Sheikh in COP27, and then together last year in Dubai, we had some initial successes in that mobilization of civil society and our global call to action for culture-based climate action. Can you tell us something about it?
And I want to sort of acknowledge your role in this, my partner in crime. And so you played an incredible role in all of this as well. So we recognize that we need to have culture in the COP process. And culture has been largely absent from the COP process. And the reason why is because we are failing to meet the requirements of the Paris Agreement. We will exceed the 1.5 degree warming. This decade, the 2020s, is a critical decade. It's an urgent time for us to take action. And we're not. We are failing as a global community to take action. And in our research and sort of in our practice, we recognize that the reason for this failure is the absence of socio-cultural dimension in climate policy and in climate action. You have technology, you have finance, but how do you impact mindsets? How do you impact action? that comes through the socio-cultural dimension. And so we had to intervene to ensure that that is taken into account. In Sharm el-Sheikh, the Egyptian presidency of COP opened the door to have a high-level ministerial meeting, which resulted in a declaration on culture-based climate action. We were very lucky in Dubai to take that further, and we launched, with the support of the Ministry of Culture of the Emirates, the group of Friends for Culture-Based Climate Action at the UNFCCC. And so we now have a governmental, high-level policy body that can really advocate for culture-based climate action. At COP, we also together launched a big civil society initiatives through the Global Call to really engage civil society and local governments internationally in efforts to lobby the UNFCCC, to lobby governments to include culture in climate action.
Yesterday morning, we had a high-level panel discussion on bringing that momentum even further from the COP28 to COP29. Are you optimistic when we are heading towards COP in Baku, in Azerbaijan, in November? Can we obtain even more?
I'm eternally optimistic, and I think we always have to keep moving forward. We have a mission. We have a mission that is important not just for us, but for humanity, and we need to just keep moving forward and do whatever we can. Yesterday we had the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs at our panel, and he was very open and he was very supportive. We need to take all of the progress that we have done one step further. At Baku, we need to include language in the formal decision, in the formal COP decision by the presidency, to include culture in climate action and to begin the process of a joint work decision that can be tabled in COP30 in Belém. So we really now need to move further into very concrete steps to ensure that culture-based climate action becomes part of the COP process.
We wish you every success, and you can count on Europa Nostra and the European Heritage Hub to support it. Final question, what are you bringing back home from Delphi, and will you come back to the Delphi Economic Forum?
If I'm invited, for sure. So hopefully I get invited back again. This is an incredibly special city. You don't even, the air is full of mystery and beauty and spirituality, and so I feel very lucky to be here. I feel very lucky to be in a place that is such an important heritage site. And I really am looking forward to going to visit the museum and the archaeological site later today. I think that will be the crowning jewel in my visit.
Your Royal Highness, dear Princess Diana, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you all for being here.